early emails in Fauci's diary. The man kept a diary, ladies and gentlemen. The man kept a diary. Man, 85 years old. At the time, he was in his 80s. He was keeping a diary. Grown-ass man in his 80s keeping a diary. I wonder why. The diary also revealed a previously undisclosed medical episode. Fauci received his second Moderna vaccination on January 19th, 2021. Yet, approximately 5 months later, after experiencing sudden chest pains, he had a CT scan. Doctors initially feared lung cancer. Further examination reportedly identified a pulmonary infarction, damage to the lung tissue generally associated with interrupted blood flow. So here's what Republicans wanted to know. Was the episode investigated as a possible vaccine-related event? Was it reported through the government's vaccine safety system? Did Fauci discuss it with NIH officials? And why did the public learn about it only through his diary, but not himself, while he was telling everybody else to take the vaccine? And to take the
If I become a punching bag, I'm a punching bag, but I am very happy to testify before any Congressional Oversight Committee. I have nothing to hide. I can explain and validate everything that I've done. So, it's going to be inconvenient if they actually are out there essentially threatening to make my life miserable. But I'm going to do what I need to do, and that is cooperate fully, because we have nothing to hide at all.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline, based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment, I respectfully decline to answer. On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
We will now begin a round of questioning. Dr. Fauci, your testimony today is compelled by a lawful subpoena. As you know, it's a crime under 18 U.S.C. Section 1001 to knowingly make a material false statement to Congress, with a penalty up to 5 years of imprisonment. Understanding that you are under oath, the American people would like to understand your reasoning, your rationale for why you chose to fund the research in Wuhan. There have been, intelligence agencies, the CIA, the FBI, the DOE, have all come to the conclusion that more likely than not, the virus came from the lab in Wuhan. And so we'd like to know, what was the rationale? What was the discussion? What went behind the decision to fund the research in Wuhan? How did you come to the conclusion that a totalitarian country would be capable of doing this in a BSL-2 lab, a lab that lacked the security? What was the reasoning? And are you sorry, basically, for making the decision? Would you, given another chance, say, well, gosh, circumstances now as I know it, maybe it wasn't a wise thing? Can you explain to the committee why you chose to fund this dangerous research in China?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color is the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs, they know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally.
So they went to the stadium. They sat alone, far from everybody else, just a mom, a dad, a few kids. They didn't feel they needed to wear masks because it was stupid, because they were outside. They all live together. They're not near anybody. Dr. Fauci, do you know what happened to that mom and that family? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
They were dragged out of that stadium and arrested. Those policies were put in place because you had moronic politicians that listened to the words of a megalomaniac who was more interested in having met a Kardashian than the suffering of the American people, and that is you. Your advice to communities like that, to idiotic politicians who enforce those rules, arrested that mom for watching a football game with her own family outside.
What's up, family? Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those post notifications because we got something real to talk about today. And this one is different because I'm not going to lie to you. We've been waiting for years for this moment, years for somebody in the mainstream to stand up and say, you know what, we were wrong. And it finally happened. So Stephen A. Smith, one of the biggest voices in sports media, the same Stephen A. that sat on national television and called Kyrie Irving flat out stupid, the same Stephen A. that said he hopes Kyrie gets cut, the same Stephen A. that led the charge against anybody who dared to question the experimental vaccine, finally sat down and issued a public apology to Kyrie Irving. And here's the thing that made him do it. It wasn't a change of heart. It wasn't him waking up one day and decided to be a better person. It was Dr. Anthony Fauci sitting in front of Congress, as you guys see on the screen, pleading the Fifth Amendment over 100 times. And that's what it took for Stephen A. to realize that maybe, just maybe, the people he spent years destroying were actually the ones telling the truth the whole time. So now let me break this down for you, family, because the context is everything. So you got Fauci, who ran the country's pandemic response for years, telling us all what to do, telling us to mask up, double mask, 6 feet apart, shut down the economy, keep your kids home from school. And if you didn't agree with him, you were labeled a danger to society. You were called a super spreader. You were called selfish, and you were called a murderer. That's real talk that happened. And then he gets called in front of Congress under oath. And what does he do? He pleads the Fifth over and over again. And they asked him about funding the Wuhan lab research. Fifth Amendment, they asked him about his own preliminary infraction about after getting the vaccine himself that he never disclosed to the public. So this man got the Moderna vaccine himself and then actually condoned and gave the green light to basically distribute it amongst many Americans to get the Moderna vaccine for COVID. And he ended up having heart problems himself from taking the vaccine first, but never disclosed that to the public and continued to support the backing of Moderna. Not only do I understand, but also from anecdotal experiences, I have seen and have heard and have come across individuals who have taken the Moderna vaccine for COVID and actually end up getting blood clots. But however, this man who advised and had the whole backing and the whole support system behind him and the whole gave basically the consent to distribute these vaccines so rapidly that he pled the Fifth Amendment. And they asked him about the mask, the lockdowns, the natural immunity, the vaccine's ability to prevent transmission, Fifth Amendment. Every single time, the same answer on the advice of counsel, his lawyers. He respectfully declines to answer based upon his rights under the Fifth Amendment. And here's the kicker. He already got a pardon from Joe Biden before Joe Biden left office, before his term was up. So even if he told the truth, he couldn't be prosecuted for it, but he still refused to answer. That tells you everything you need to know about what actually went on behind closed doors during the pandemic. So Stephen A. Smith is sitting there watching his testimony, as many of us are, and I played it on the screen just now, and something clicks in his brain. He realizes that the same people he called selfish, the same athletes he said were letting their teammates down and refusing to take the vaccine because they had plenty of questions, prioritizing their health, not only to see that the doctor that advised this vaccine and gave consent to spread it across America while multiple or a multitude, or I should say, dozens of Americans died from the vaccine that he had his own heart lung problem from. The doctor that still basically let it out to the world to be dispersed to have problems as him, or either even worse, or potentially just die from it when it comes to this Moderna vaccine, when it comes for COVID and stuff like that. So Kyrie Irving refused, right? He had plenty of questions, just like many other Americans may have, but they were so busy told what to do and how to think and what to do. And if they didn't comply, individuals literally lost their jobs and so forth. So Stephen A. Smith, being a sports media person he is, Kyrie Irving was on the Brooklyn Nets NBA basketball team at the time, and he was willing to prioritize his health over complying for this vaccination to the point where he would rather remove himself from the team. So in Stephen A. Smith's eyes, he were letting his teammates down at the time, right? The same people he said were flat out stupid, Stephen A., like Kyrie Irving, were actually the ones with the courage to stand up and say, no, I'm not doing that. And he admits it on his own show. And he says, and I watch Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill, and the person he thought about most was Kyrie Irving, he said. He says Kyrie stood out in his mind because of the heat he was taking, and let alone Stephen A. Smith gave him heat as well. And he says, in his opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave in his willingness to stand up and say, I'm not doing that in regards to taking the vaccine. And then Stephen A. drops the line that should make every single person who piled on Kyrie feel some type of way. He says Kyrie Irving did nobody wrong. We did him wrong. And Stephen A. even admitted he did Kyrie Irving wrong. And for that, he sincerely apologized.
Good day for Dr. Fauci. He looks very bad. Very bad. And yes, through the advice of his lawyers, and yes, your lawyers compel you to do something, and they probably wanted him to plead the fifth on many occasions before he finally relented and did it yesterday. But the bottom line is, this man held dominions over the lives of a nation, if not the world, with what he was imploring and mandating. Everybody was listening to him. As Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pointed out on Hannity last night, he accused Fauci of misleading the country when it came to masks. Fauci was damn near encouraging us to wear 2 and 3 masks at a time. We barely could breathe. How about the 6-foot social distancing? We can't ignore that. Where you get that from? He later admitted that it wasn't backed by science. You're just coming up with this stuff. The lockdowns, the natural.
And the funny part is, you have people still wearing masks to this day, and it's not even backed by science. Some people would just follow along, right? There's a narrow path, I guess, right, for the courageous or the ones who have courage. Some people would just follow where everybody else goes, and some people will actually ask questions and be their own person.
The vaccine's ability to prevent infection and transmission. Fauci's pulmonary infarction following vaccination that he didn't reveal to the public, but he wrote about it in his diary. This is all shady shit. It is. And the Democrats have nothing to say.
Why would they say something, Stephen A. Smith? They got rich off of it. They got rich off of chaos. When don't the Democrats start chaos or divide the country to get rich and enrich themselves? Why would you say anything when it's pat in your pockets? Why would Dr. Anthony Fauci say anything and it's pat in his pockets? Through all the fear and the people hoarding and running to Costco's and Sam's and so many other stores and hoarding toilet paper and paper towel, and it was like the end of the world, right? And the whole time this man had a lung cancer or a health scare from the same vaccine he approved to go out to millions of Americans who lost their lives from it. The same doctor who took the same vaccine and still said, we're going to give it. So some people follow along as sheep with other individuals, not understanding that it's a narrow road when it comes to actually spreading the truth.
Wasn't it the Democrats that was enforcing stuff? People lost their jobs. Businesses went out of business. Folks' quality of life was severely compromised. And we had reached a point in our society where if you even questioned Fauci, as opposed to celebrate him, you were in trouble.
Sounds like censorship to me. Sounds like suppression or oppression. Sounds like the same thing that's the Democrat Party is now just coming out and representing. Socialism in the name of communism, right? Doesn't really make a difference. It makes you wonder, through the pandemic, was this all the plan overall to spread socialism in the name of communism? Because now they want to control things government-wise and control who it's allocated to. And for those who don't agree or celebrate or abide or just clap away, just because they tell you to, they will suppress you to the fullest extent. And now they're just like, look, we're the Democratic Socialists of America. Vote for us. And now you got Zoran Mudami, who said you'll get some free damn busing and never got no free damn busing and everything else. So it seems like the pandemic exposed a lot of things, which now is making sense. See, some things have to take place in the past to make sense in the current. Time and a place for everything, I guess, right? Also, a lot of marriages have failed and relationships because some people couldn't fathom the simple fact that some people actually realized they couldn't live with each other and know how to operate or get their house in order from being secluded to their home and couldn't really go out in public and being on shutdown and lockdown and things like that of that nature. So Dr. Anthony Fauci destroyed a lot of things and let alone also supported and approved a vaccination that was supposed to save lives that actually got rid of lives.
Made the wrong decision, bro. And here's why. Because you trusted Kyrie. Kyrie Irving betrayed you. Flat out betrayed you. Left you hanging. And while you sitting up there getting your ass kicked last night, all right? Steph Curry sitting there shimmying and joking around, laughing on the court. They were cheering for Steph Curry in Brooklyn. From opening tap, they were chanting MVP in the Barclays Center, and it wasn't for the dude averaging 28.9 points a game for the Brooklyn Nets. It was for Steph Curry. And then you juxtapose Steph Curry compared to Kyrie Irving, and what do you have? You got Kyrie Irving, who is a showstopper. Kyrie Irving, who is a superstar talent. He is box office and can't be trusted. I actually hope Kyrie Irving gets cut. I mean, this is a disgrace.
Now, that was basically Stephen A. in the past giving heat to Kyrie Irving for not taking the shot, the vaccine. Now, this is Stephen A. now that he sees the truth coming out, as you have seen this current administration being the most transparent and also holding, happen to be the Democrats, accountable for the fraud, corruption, scandalous nature in regards of not only basically taking advantage of taxpayer dollars, but also for the simple fact of using fear to this fullest extent in the name of a health scare to get rid of American lives. And if you think about it, that actually helps them in the census and justify them to feel like they need more people in the name of illegal immigration to continue to prop them up to stay in control while they continue to sleep at night, enriching themselves while they discredit not only the votes of Americans, but also don't even care that they have cost the millions of American lives through the misguidance and not the backing of science, but just in the simple fact of greed and individuals trusting Dr. Anthony Fauci, who was supposed to be the individual leading this thing when COVID first started during the Biden administration, to basically help individuals manage this health scare this country never seen before. But apparently we've been misguided, let alone used, and I should say not only used, but lied to and constantly told what to say, what to do, and censored in every way, shape, and form where you couldn't say anything, or it cost you your whole life in regards of just not only your livelihood of individuals, but also just for individuals to be able to take care of themselves and their families. So this is Stephen A. Smith now realizing all of that and now waking up to apologize to Kyrie Irving, the basketball player.
And what have you, but I felt compelled to come on the air. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I have to do something that I've done in the past, but I haven't had to do but so much in my career. I just feel compelled to do it today. And that's to issue an apology. There's several people that we all owe apologies to, and I'll put myself at the front of the list. But none more so than the apology that I owe to Kyrie Irving. But there were others who had the courage to say, bump that. And one of those people at the forefront was Kyrie Irving. I bring his name up because I had my issues with him from a leadership standpoint.
He had his issues because he didn't want to comply with the vaccine mandate in the NBA. Now, two things can be true at the same time. I like and I appreciate that he's taking accountability, but I don't like that he was basically trying to cut the man's way of living, as in doing his job as a being part of the National Basketball Association as an NBA player, which he rightfully so earned. And Kyrie Irving will go down as the one of the most phenomenal point guards in history, let alone winning a multitude of rings with LeBron James from the Cavaliers and et cetera, et cetera. But the simple fact is you did also push for a man to lose his job over a vaccine mandate. I hope you realize that for his spiritual or religious beliefs. I don't care. My worst enemy, I will not support for them to lose their way of taking care of themselves and their livelihood.
As a player, because he's sensational. But with him, in terms of leadership, and I didn't look at it as being courageous. I looked at it as being selfish.
Well, you were being an ignorant Democrat. I mean, that's just the reality of it. You took whatever the Democrats say. He still votes Democrat, even though he says things that's common sense and coming to his senses, it seems like, but he still votes the same way. So I don't really take Stephen A. Smith seriously when it comes to him realizing us having the most transparent administration and the administration that is basically upholding accountability to the utmost extent, and also revealing all of these things and draining the swamp of corruption and actually seeing where our taxpayer dollars go and upholding our election integrity and actually keeping our voice heard from our vote and actually prioritizing that, because that's how it's supposed to be. But he had basically supported people that was supposedly saying they uphold and for democracy, and the whole time they been attacking democracy. So you just been ignorant and selfish the whole time within the information of being biased within your own political standpoint, but never asked the questions to actually back it up with proof until now the truth has come out, because now you have the Trump administration actually revealing these things in real time with real receipts. And you only took what the Democrats said and just ran with it. And they gave you no receipts. They just told you to listen what we say. And what we say is what we mean. And what we mean is the truth. And the truth and nothing but the truth. And even if we don't have to show you proof of it, to substantiate our point, it's still the truth, just because they told you so.
And I watched Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill yesterday. And the person I thought about most was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving stood out in my mind because of the heat that he was taking. And how folks were piling on because that was just the latest transgression in their eyes that he was committing and subjecting the public to. He refused the vaccine. New York City's mandate made him ineligible for home games. And he linked his stance to people losing jobs over vaccine mandates. In my opinion, particularly hindsight-wise, it didn't make him stubborn or selfish. It made him brave for his willingness to stand up and say, nah, I'm not doing that. just a time for reflection and look at things differently. But this is not about him, the basketball player. This is about him, the man. The reality is that Kyrie Irving, no matter what we think, may have been more right than we have given him credit for, and unquestionably was more vilified than he deserved. It turns out that no matter what the truth is behind all of this, Kyrie Irving did nobody wrong. We did him wrong. I did him wrong. And for that, I'm sincerely sorry.
Now, and I respect his action, but I'm sure you guys watching this are thinking probably what I'm thinking. Are you saying this just to save face so individuals can't hold you accountable for the clip that I played when he was giving heat and basically condemning Kyrie Irving? And also, not only to save face, but also it leads to another question. Are you doing this also to remove the guilt that you had as you felt guilty when you watched Dr. Anthony Fauci actually mislead American people and all of us, this nation, with the vaccine mandates? Only Stephen A. Smith know. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a fair question. Are you doing this just because of your guilt? Or are you genuinely actually apologizing, sorry, and actually will take different approaches in the name of reflecting, quote unquote, like he just said? Or you just want to save face, get ahead of it, also remove your guilt. But at the end of the day, just speaking to it so you can protect yourself and nobody has anything to say anymore, any longer. But you still have your way of still approaching information by being politically biased or biased just because it was the backing of the Democrats. Because the reality is, Stephen A. Smith didn't care to hear a different perspective because he is pro-Democrat and he only cared what the Democrats said, and whatever the Democrats say, he went with because of his political bias. He's pro-Democrat, right? So who's to say maybe he's waking up? Maybe he's not. Maybe he's only waking up on this certain thing. He's just pissed off. But only his vote and the way of his actions will prove that, and he has to live with that. Now, let's be real for a second, because I'm not here to tell you what to think. We're just having a conversation as well, as always, and productive conversation. But I want you to sit with that for a moment. This is a man who made millions of dollars yelling at Kyrie Irving on national television, calling him a disgrace to the game, hoping he gets cut for exercising his own bodily autonomy. And now, 5 years later, after Fauci pleaded the fifth, he wants to apologize. Now, look, I get it. People make mistakes. People grow. People change their minds. That's part of being human. But here's the thing that bothers me about this whole situation. Stephen A., like I said, most of it comes off only apologize because Fauci made himself look guilty on live television. He didn't apologize when Kyrie was losing his salary. He didn't apologize when Kyrie was being booed in every arena. And he didn't apologize when the media was calling him an anti-vaxxer, a conspiracy theorist, a danger to society for having a different opinion. He waited until the truth was undeniable and waited until the guy at the top of the pyramid showed his hand and admitted through the silence that he has something to hide. And that's not courage, family. That's convenience. Think about everybody who caught up in this machine. Kyrie Irving lost over $11 million in salary that season. He walked away from a $100 million contract extension with the Brooklyn Nets. He got traded. He got demoted. He got embarrassed on every platform because he refused to put something in his body that he wasn't comfortable with. And he was right the whole time. Aaron Rodgers, same thing. Novik, hopefully I don't botch his last name. Djokovic, same thing. Cole Beasley, Tyler Bertuzzi. Everyday Americans lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, lost their reputations because they asked questions. And what did the media do? They pointed and laughed. They called them names. They made them the villains. And now here comes Stephen A. Smith years later with an apology. Cool, I appreciate it, but the damage is already done. The money is already gone. The jobs are already lost. The kids are already behind. In the school, the business is already closed. And for what? Because Fauci and his team were making decisions based on politics, not science. And this is where the bigger conversation comes in, because this isn't just about Stephen A. Smith, and it's not just about Kyrie Irving. This is about what happens when groupthink takes over. This about what happens when people are afraid to speak up because they don't want to be the next person destroyed by the mob. So you think in a group and you go along with where everybody else say, to go along and get along. group thinking. And Stephen A. Smith was part of that mob, and he was one of the loudest voices in that mob. And now he's apologizing after the fact. And I'm not saying the apology means nothing, like I said before, but I am saying we need to learn the lesson here. And the lesson is that just because everybody is saying something doesn't make it true. Just because the media is telling you to be afraid of somebody doesn't mean they're dangerous. Just because the government says take this shot doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Mind you, they're using your taxpayer money to fund to actually implement or create this shot that they're telling you as a mandate to take. And the people who had the courage to ask questions back then, the ones who stood alone, the ones who lost everything for standing on principle, the ones who are the people we should have been listening to, not the ones who waited until it was safe to tell the truth. So here's the scripture I want to leave you with. This is straight from Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 2. It says, "Judge not that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." And think about how that applies here. Stephen A. Smith judged Kyrie Irving. He pronounced him selfish. He pronounced him a disgrace. He pronounced him flat out stupid. And now we're seeing the judgment come full circle. 5 years later, the same standard he used to measure Kyrie is now being used to measure Fauci. And the whole system that pushed this narrative and the truth is coming out that Kyrie was never the villain. He was the one brave enough to stand alone, and when it wasn't popular, and that's the kind of conviction we all need to have, because the mob will turn on you, the media will turn on you. That's why you shouldn't please individuals and just do what other people say or seek for validation, because at the end of the day, you will actually fall into a trap that may seem pleasing in the moment, but actually, if you continue to follow along with the mob, they will turn on you. Your friends will turn on you, or might turn on you, I should say. But if you know what you know to be true, you stand on it anyway. And for individuals who may not be spiritual, here's the life wisdom takeaway. Sometimes being right means being alone. First, Kyrie Irving was right years before it was safe to be right. And that's the hardest position to be in the world, because the world will celebrate you when you agree with the crowd, but the real test of character is whether you stand still, stand firm when the whole room is against you. And most people won't do it because they can't handle the heat. But the ones who do, the ones who stand on principle, even when it costs them everything, those are the ones that history remembers. And they are true leaders and a characteristic of a true leader. And the other lesson is this: when you were wrong, be big enough to say it. And Stephen A. eventually did, and I'll give him credit for that. But don't wait until the truth is undeniable, and don't wait until it's safe. Apologize while it costs you something. And that's when it actually means something at the end of the day, family. So we all got a choice. You can follow the crowd and be popular, or you can stand on truth and be right. And sometimes you can be both. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Turn on your post notifications, spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate, family. Catch you in the next one. Peace.